Good Morning Kenya continues, and now I'm joined by Harriet Chigai, who is the President's Advisor on Women Rights. Harriet, your office has been instrumental in offering advisory to the government on policies, laws and strategies to promote women's rights and well-being. What what key strategies have been implemented to ensure that women's rights are protected?
Thank you very much. First, let me just say this is the first government that came into power, and they actually the president signed a women's charter with the women of this country. Within that women's charter, we made about 43 commitments to women, and one of them was GBV, economic empowerment. And within those 43 commitments that were made, this office then reviewed all of them and redirected or re-engineered them into about 4 pillars. Pillar number 1 is economic empowerment and investment. Pillar number 2 is data and research. Pillar number 3 is legal policy, and then pillar number 4 is partnerships. So you realize when we structured all the commitments and leveled them into those pillars, key in point is how then are we going to deal with specific matters of GBV, because that was the key issue that brought the Women Charter to the front. And when you look at GBV, we have different types of GBV. GBV in terms of female genital mutilation, and government of Kenya sits or made promises and commitments within the Generation Equality Forum, and the president of this country actually chairs the GBV committee. So you then realize that my office was put in place to spotlight, review, look at matters GBV, strengthen legal policies, regulations around women and children around that space. And it's because of that this office came up with an initiative called Safe Home, Safe Spaces. When we came into office, we asked ourselves, what really is happening in this country on issues to do with GBV? What can we do different, pegged on what others have done, for us to come together and tell ourselves, hey, wait a minute, this country actually needs to stop for at least one day and ask ourselves, why do we have so much hate relationship, Why is it that we met pain or we inject pain against each other and we are happy about it, So the question then we ask is, where is the dopamine hormone that makes people happy? Because when you look around ourselves, everybody's angry. So we then realize GBV, in our quest to go around to the ground, to talk to women, to talk to children, to talk with the community at large, we discovered that GBV is highly prevalent within the safe homes and safe spaces where we are. And it doesn't matter if it's children are being raped within the confinement of their homes. If it's women are being beaten by their lovers, and vice versa, even men. The few men who have died or who have been attacked, it's intimate partner violence. And that translates to almost 99.1%, When you look at the statistics are telling us that out of every woman you meet, 5 women you meet out there, 4 of them have been violated in one way or another, whether it's mental, whether it's physical. So what does that tell us about the society? So we then calibrated the Safe Home, Safe Spaces initiative, which is a 3-year program. In this office, we talk about safe spaces. How do we create safe spaces in every environment that we step in, including out there? And it's literally an advocacy campaign. And within that space, we're also working a lot with the widows. Remember, when the president went around this country, the vulnerable groups, widows, persons living with disability, felt they were left out. So in our quest to curate our widows program, we then discovered very many young men are dying because of boda boda. And then we asked ourselves, what is this with boda boda? And I want you to look at the societal approach in terms of how the society feeds into each and any other problem. You start fire here, but you realize that it actually affects quite a number of people around that space. So we then discovered boda boda riders are dying. Young men are really dying because we met so many young widows out there. with very young children. And then we discovered if we do not deal with the road safety issue, we will still have many more widows who will not be able to take care of themselves, because within the cultural biases, women ideally are supposed to sit at home and the men to provide. So you find the young men who are boda bodas, who have been highly accused for teenage pregnancy. When you look at the case, the reports that we have, you discover it's not only about teenage pregnancy. We now have an issue of road and safety, and then we now have an issue of sustainability in terms of how do these businesses of theirs grow. So when you talk about economic empowerment, you realize you can deal with one. If you leave the other one, there's no ripple effect. So then we curated the Boda Boda initiative as we train Boda Bodas to be alive to the fact of the laws and policy that affect them on matters young women or young girls who are being impregnated at an early stage. We then have to deal with the issue of the road safety. So we have a 360-degree approach in how we work with the Boda Boda riders on road safety. At the same time, we address the issue of teen pregnancies and young mothers. At the same time, we address the issue of widows and economic empowerment and investment. So we've been able to launch this program. We launched it in Kakamega, and we thank the governor of Kakamega who embraced this initiative. And now, since it was tested and tried and it's working, we want to escalate it to other counties as well. So we realize we cannot change laws and policies without involving the participants. So on matters GBV in this office, we are saying we will go to those who have been accused, the perpetrators, because we have to touch the pulse of where the problem is, because many people are doing a lot in this country on matters GBV, but all our efforts are scattered. So you realize we need to centralize all these efforts so that we can have a way of reporting, and then we can see the numbers reducing. So we have now to coordinate and bring everybody together so that we can move forward together. So those two initiatives are very important in this office, because not only are we dealing with laws and policies that are affecting women and children, we've also decided it's important that we work with our men as well, our men and the young boys, because it's very difficult to separate a woman from their children. When you talk about a woman, you must address the question of children. And when you address the question of children, you cannot leave the boy out of this equation. And even as we empower the girl, we have to ensure that we carry the young men with us. Otherwise, we'll leave the young men behind, and we'll not even be able to now celebrate the achievements that we have made in the last 30 years post-Beijing. Yeah.
What critical areas require strategic interventions to fully ensure women enjoy their rights and, freedoms as enshrined in the Constitution?
There's quite a lot that needs to be done. Already a lot has happened. When you look at Kenya today, I must be confident to say, Kenya, we are ahead of time. In fact, I keep saying Kenyans, we beat ourselves too much. There's a lot that we have to live to celebrate now. When Beijing happened, I'm sure 30 years ago, I might have been in primary school, So it was a story for us young girls then. But here I am sitting on this seat to not only celebrate the women, the Zipporah Kitonis, who took more than 500 women to Beijing. We are here actually to celebrate them because we are now feeding and sitting at their feet, not only to celebrate the milestones of the women who've gone before us, but also the spaces they created for the young upcoming women. And for me, it will be my joy that even as I leave this seat, there'll be so many other young women who are happy that we created a way or a path for them, and now young men, because I insist we cannot leave the boy child behind, because a lot now has gone towards uplifting the girl child. Matters education. Right now, when you look at the Ministry of Education, they have a return to school policy. Kenya right now, we are celebrating a situation whereby we have our young girls, even those who are getting pregnant. We have a near 90% transition from primary school to secondary school. So that is a plus, We are not discriminating against young girls who are impregnated in school. But that does not mean that we are encouraging young girls to get pregnant. We are hoping with the initiatives that we are putting in place, the girl will be more alive to the environment. The young men will also be more alive to their environment, and the men specifically, so that they don't get involved in situations where it's termed criminal, like impregnating a young girl, rape cases, and things like that. So when it comes to leadership, Kenya, we're also in a celebratory mood. I can start with my office. It's near unheard of that you can have a women rights advisor and children rights advisor seated in the office of the president. That is a plus, and we laud the government for doing that. It was a promise, it has been actualized, and I'm hoping I'll not be the first and last. I'm hoping there'll be another young woman who will come and do better, you know. So for me, those are big milestones. When you look at leadership in this country, this is the first government that has registered the highest number of cabinet secretaries who are women. Look at the principal secretaries. We didn't near the 50-50, but we attained the third. So this, for me, we need to celebrate even as we push for more numbers. Look at our parliament today. Who in their rightful mind ever thought that we'll have the deputy speaker in parliament as a woman? You know? So for me, I think Kenyans, we beat ourselves too much. We need to celebrate as and when we have good things that are happening in this country. Parliament also has quite a number of women leaders, elective positions, you know, and we celebrate those women because we all know it's not easy for any woman to stand up for an elective position and they get it. And mine is to urge, the president actually said the other day when he was in Homa Bay, you know, that if anyone has an opportunity to elect a woman, go ahead and elect women. Because women nurture, women grow, women are resilient in terms of focus, in terms of what they want to do. But of course, they are working with other men who are supporting them. So for me, those are big, big milestones. Look at CEOs in this country. We have quite a number of women, young girls who are engineers in this country. We have a large number of women who have taken up leadership and governance positions in different spheres. So those, for me, we actually need to celebrate even as we push for more. The one big thing that I think we are still lagging behind is issues to do with GBV. We are still talking about 26% GBV high rate in this country, and we want to reduce that number. We want to say, let's all unite and stop GBV. And I'm truly happy that the Femicide Committee has been put in place, and it's going to look at these issues and give a whole 360-degree approach in how we are going to deal with issues to do with GBV in this country. Now, the plus in that initiative is that laws, they're going to give proposals on the gaps that are already there. They're going to consolidate reports, research, work that all the institutions are doing. The church needs to play a key role in this situation. We have now AI, and you can see the impact of AI on matters women, on matters leadership. These are issues that now we need to start addressing. So there are new emerging areas on matters GBV that we need to address. And it's important as a country, the freedom of speech, freedom of expression as enshrined in the Constitution. We also have to know that other members of the society also have a right. They have a right to privacy. They have a right to hold meetings. They have a right to speak, but where are the limitations? So we then realize there are pluses and negatives at the same time, but we have to balance the society. So on matters GBV, yes, we need to do quite a little more because we now see the hate-love relationship has gone a notch higher. We are now slaughtering each other in the name of femicide, intimate partner violence, and as a result, that is an area that we are still lagging behind, and we need to address those issues as a society.
Thank you, Madam Harriet. And now, as we continue, what are the key achievements under the current administration that have been achieved in advancing women's rights and gender equality?
Well, there's a lot that has gone to advancing equality in this and diversity in this country. Just like I said, it's the first time that matters to do with women's rights and children is sitting within the office of the president. The gender committee or the special femicide committee is stationed within the office of the president. What does that tell you? It is in the heart of the presidency to ensure the safety and security of all women and children in this country. And remember, when I talk about children, I'm talking about the boy child as well, because we have seen a high rate of young men committing suicide And that's the same way we've seen a high rate of women being killed as a result of intimate partner violence. So the question we're asking ourselves is, what are the root cause of these issues? Yeah, and we need to look at all those issues. We also have a situation whereby the government committed itself to end FGM. You know, we want to zero rate FGM. And I wish to report that on that front, we are doing very well. I have been to certain counties like the others last year, Mount Elgon, during the 16 days of activism. The leaders there actually signed that they are going to stop FGM. That is a plus, you know. Issues to do with young girls and why young girls are not going to school, that is menstrual hygiene. The government has decided to give free sanitary towels in schools. For me, that is a plus. Gender responsive budgeting. You know, these are things that we talk about every other time. The AGPO certificate, the Hustler Fund. When you talk about economic empowerment and investment, what are we really thinking around that area? For me, if we accelerate a bare minimum of 6 to 8 million women on matters cottage industries, and you've seen the government talking about cooperative societies. You've seen government initiating activities where we are insisting that women get themselves into chamas, women get themselves into cooperative societies so that they can be able to benefit from what the government is doing. You have seen Hustler Fund, where we are saying 50% of finances that are disbursed should be disbursed to women. We are now moving a notch higher to talk about cottage industry. In terms of agriculture, you have 65% of women in the agricultural front. So what are we doing as a whole? Training, advocacy, information is very key. And that is why everybody must get out of there. And the members of the fourth estate, the media is very important on this as part of learning and learning, you know. So in a situation where we want to accelerate economic empowerment for women, and we talk about investments as well, assuming we put a near number, 6 to 8 million, how do we accelerate women within this front? If we accelerate women, we can assure you, even through cottage industries, children will go to school. The poverty margins will go down. This issue we are talking about economy and GDP, we will be able to create a good balance because now women, we are using both women and men, because for a long time, the burden has been put on the man, on the male gender. And you find men tend to overwork, and every time men are put on pressure, everybody is telling them, you know what, you have to man up, you have to take care of your family. But look at a situation whereby 50% of the population is not utilized. Yeah, what does that mean? 50% of the potential of the country has not been utilized. So if we then bring on board women and young men in the name, and women in the name of the youth, you'll see we'll accelerate the GDP of the country, because now everybody is getting to work. So we have to inculcate the culture of work. We have to inculcate the culture of self-dependency. You know, in some communities, we still have quite a number of people lining up to get handouts. What does that tell us about ourselves? We are demeaning the society, you know. It is high time that we get even widows to stand for themselves. It's high time we get women to be in cottage movement, cottage industries, so that they can sustain their families. Assuming the women who are widows right now were empowered long time ago to stand for themselves. We will not be having widows crying that they don't have a roof, they don't have a place to sleep, their children cannot go to school because the breadwinner is not there. So we need to inculcate and retune our culture so that we can have a culture where we embrace diversity, we embrace togetherness, we bring the spirit of love instead of hate, because that is what I see currently. Any small bulb of argument, even within your office setup, I can assure you a blow will through. So how do we change all this, you know? So government has done a lot, and that is why we are digitizing government services. For instance, when we came to office, we looked at health and the promises that were made within the health system. One, Kenyans wanted all of them to be covered. There goes UHC. Yes, we had NHIF. But what was NHIF covering? NHIF was covering public servants. And a handful of those who could now pay into NHIF as private individuals. But now government is saying, we made the promise to bring everybody into NHIF. But now we are changing it. After auditing the system and seeing the gaps and problems which were there, you cannot audit and change within. You have to create new data, new clean data. So what did government do? Government came with the UHC, the universal health coverage. Within that space, we have the young girls who have been defined as indigent, you know. Now, previously, young children could not go to hospital and get treated. In most cases, you had to go with somebody, assuming it was a rape case or a violation. The person who would take you to hospital is the same perpetrator, you know, because you had to be accompanied by somebody. But now government is saying, you present yourself, you'll be treated first, because you have a right to that treatment. And that is why it is very important, you know, systems aside, it is very important that all Kenyans are registered. Look at our social frock, the way we are. Your mother gets sick today. It's a WhatsApp group of everybody to start contributing into our WhatsApp group for help. Now, this is one of the biggest problems, because if everybody was covered and we have that revolving fund, you'll realize going to hospital is a near given. Government has also put community health promoters in place. What is government saying? Government is saying, let's move from curative measures to preventive measures. A community health promoter, and I want to use a near close issue. For me, my father was always coming home saying he has a headache, right? He takes Panadol, goes to sleep. Guess what? It was high blood pressure that was checking in. Now, if that was dictated early by a community health promoter, would have stopped him from actually going full-blown high blood pressure patient to start depending on medication, you know. So that's what government is doing. If a community health promoter has 100 households, it means this person can actually visit 3 homes in a day just to check blood pressure. Is there a woman who's pregnant here today? If it's a woman who's pregnant here today, can we plan for delivery of this child? So that you have 9 months to plan and help this woman in the rural home. Let's forget about the CBD folks who can get themselves to hospital. We are talking about rural, you know. So a CHP in the rural setup comes and checks and says, okay, there's a pregnant woman in this place. Is this pregnancy safe or not? If it's safe, the near dispensary, madam, is place XY. It's 2 kilometers away. You need to start your journey 2 hours before or a day before so that you can deliver your child safe. Now, that is problem number 1 solved. Problem number 2 is, if there's a difficulty in this pregnancy, now we need to admit you 1 week before. Can we check to see how the baby is sitting? Remember, in the rural setup, parents there don't know. It's either out of ignorance or it's poverty margins, but government is bringing services now to you, you know. Now, issues to do with diabetes, those are issues that can be solved. You know, when you go to the rural setup, you get ladies who have goiter, and everybody has chopped themselves small lacerations, and they're putting traditional medication. We are not saying traditional medication is not good, but we are saying by the time you're administering that medication, are you aware what the problem is? If you look at the larger Western region, many people have throat problems, which culminates to stomach cancer, you know, within time. But if these health problems are dictated early, this thing of villagers saying, oh my God, I've been bewitched, that is why I cannot heal. Yet it's goiter that is forming up, you know, or it's cancer that is building up. These things can be treated in good time. And that is why government is saying, let's go curative. Let us be able to come to your household and tell you what is the proper diet that you need to have. If it's an issue of malnutrition in this home, how can we address it? If it's an issue of data, can we be able to collect data and say in the Western region, many people have goiter-related problems. What is the problem? You go and test the water, you realize because of minerals, these people are taking a lot of copper in the water. The one thing everybody is doing is drilling a borehole. The borehole is not checked. So government then will be able to plan for its people. You know, you'll say, instead of us bringing a whole truck tons of cancer medicine because we don't know. Now you'll be bringing the exact needed medication. They'll be saving on time, they'll be saving on cost. We'll have mapped out everything, including even our medical personnel. Why should we why should we send malaria tablets to Wajir, yet malaria is in Kisumu? And we know the numbers in Kisumu and Busia. Why should we take cancer medication, let's say in Turkana, while cancer is more prevalent in Nairobi? Why should we bring a lot of medication to rot in stores? Yeah, yet we can be able to plan and plan well so that we know where exactly do we need to touch. That's basically what the government is doing. And in my view, honestly, women are the biggest beneficiaries of universal health coverage, women and children. And I say this with a lot of confidence because ask any young mother. Young mothers are always in hospital until a child is 6 years or 8 to 10 years old. Because between the 0 to 8 years, you have communicable diseases. So can we plan for these children within that space and these young mothers, you know? And if we get it right with the health system, I think this country will breathe. Yeah. So for me, those are big pluses. And then the other thing we need to look at is AGPO certificate. You know, economic empowerment. For a long time, AGPO certificate was issued to anyone because there was no data. But now, using the current systems that government is putting in place by merging GAF and WEF, we'll now be able to know where exactly are these women and how is AGPO certificate going to be issued? What are the corrective measures that we need to put in place? And issues like that. So for me, I think women have really gotten a plus in this government.
What flagship initiatives or programs has the Office of the President introduced or supported to enhance women's political participation, economic empowerment, and protection against GBV?
Well, let me start with the latest because it's a win for the women in this country, and that is protection against GBV. We've had our president many times pronounce himself on matters FGM, you know, and matters GBV. For me, that is a big plus because the president is leading from the front. Now, he's gone a step ahead and put the task force led by former DCJ, Dr. Nancy Baraza. What is that committee going to do? Accelerate the solutions that we want within GBV. And their TOR is completely broad, and they have to look at gaps, they have to look at laws and policies, and a lot of work has already gone into that. Our office has already mapped all the laws that need to be reviewed and changed, the policies that need to be enhanced, and it's within that space that you find now this committee has to consolidate all these policies. This committee has to consolidate all the advisories that have been put in place. This committee has to go out and listen as well. You know, if they fraction themselves within the 8 regions in this country, we should be able to come up with a proper curative measure within GBV. So for me, that is a big, big milestone. And I can easily say now I'm done. I'm done. I can sign up my work and hand over once we get that report. In terms of economic empowerment and investment, a lot has also gone. The ministries are doing quite a lot within that space. We have the Ministry of Gender, which has put in place the care work regulations. The care work policy is now at its tail end. And I look forward now for us to draft the care work bill. And within the care work bill, a lot is going to be covered within that space. So you can see within policy, a lot is already going on. In terms of programs, we have the Safe Home, Safe Spaces campaign initiated by this office. And it's a campaign to advocate for safe spaces for women and children. Everywhere we go, that is our narrative. I can assure you, for us to deal with matters GBV, we have to change our hearts. It's our hearts. So we have to start looking at life from a more positive lens, and we just become good human beings because that is what is lacking. We also have issues to do with cooperatives. Government has really put money within that space. Matters agriculture, 65% of women are within the agricultural space. Issues to do with fertilizer. When you go to the production areas in this country, they will tell you last year there was a bumper harvest, and the records are there. Look at the funds that have been put in place. It's a matter of Kenyans to coordinate themselves, put themselves together, and to be able to access these funds. And the rallying call is, when you get a loan or credit, please pay it back so that somebody else can be able to benefit from it. The other initiative that we've brought in place in terms of economic empowerment and investment, we brought the Power Series in this country. And that is where all the banks are signing in for, to accelerate women within the economic empowerment space, where there's access to finance. And we are asking those who access this finance to actually pay so that we can be able to roll over the initiatives that government is putting in place. And then there's now cooperatives. We are urging everyone who's within the agricultural sector to sign themselves up in cooperatives so that they can fashion themselves to access finances for them to be able to build their businesses, to build their cottage industries, for everyone to be able to benefit from what the government is doing. The coffee industry. We've been discussing about coffee for the longest time. Now, it's important that anyone who wants to plant coffee, and you've seen what government has done. Government has mapped all the 47 counties, and we have value chains within all the 47 counties. You can imagine if all the 47 counties say we have 2 agricultural products. Let's go to Busia and say Busia it's sunflower and cotton. Create a cottage industry for sunflower and cotton, and if they make any other thing, let's say they plant simsim or they plant cassava, or it's for food, for the food basket. Come to Kakamega and tell people in Kakamega, you guys are very good in planting what? Is it sugarcane? Then let's accelerate sugarcane in Kakamega, but at the same time, what is the food basket in Kakamega? Maize. Accelerate the farmers within that space and create the milling plants within Kakamega. Go to Trans Nzoia, do the same thing. Go down coast, Lamu. Lamu has high simsim production. Why can't we transform all the farms to produce simsim and create an industry for simsim plus oil expression machinery in Lamu? Can you imagine Mpeketoni and its environments? And then we also have another industry there, the blue economy, where women or young men can be the ones doing the high-level fishing. Tuna fish in Lamu is like a gold mine, but who is removing our gold? It's other individuals. So this government has done that, by the way. If you go to Kisumu, what is the economic activity in Kisumu? I'm happy we are going to have the investment conference in Kisumu, I think in a week's time. Can young men and women be craving for knowledge so that they can stand for themselves? Look at the education system. If we all move from cramming papers into realities of the day where we are saying, let's go STEM. Let us have individuals who can do more and be builders, then we'll have very many people coming out of university and colleges to be able to stand for themselves or to be the employers. Right now, ask any young man they want to be employed. Why can't we get individuals out there who can come out of university already even employing others? You don't have to wait for 9-7 years for you to start earning. I remember when we were in primary school, we were very industrialized. You'll buy a packet of sweets and you'll sell each sweet at 2 shillings. At the end of the day, you buy 2 other packets. When we were discovered, of course, we were pinched by the teachers. But what the teachers didn't understand, they were actually stopping the entrepreneurs in the class from continuing doing business, So we need to actually retool our education system and make children to start thinking from a very young age. We also need to make these children to start thinking outside the box. You actually don't need to wear a tie and whatever for you to look like you are working, You can be easy. Work from within any small space you have. Go into the investment platforms, Learn Bitcoin, the new currencies. We have AI. How can we use AI in a very responsive manner? So I think there's a lot. There's a lot that the young people can do. There's a lot that the government is doing. Look at affordable housing. When affordable housing started, it looked like a cliche. It looked like a curse that we have put on ourselves. But I was in Eldoret the other day, and this person came and told me, you know what, madam, for me as an artisan, just go and tell the president thank you. I have never made money like I have when these affordable housing units started coming up. So we are seated here saying, oh, we don't want. Eldoret now is a city. How do you plan Eldoret as a city so that we don't make it look like a village going forward? You have to create the satellite homes. You have to, so that the farms can continue thriving. You know, we are not telling anyone to leave their farms, but we are telling everyone, let's plan our cities so that even as the cities are growing, we have a plan that anyone who wants to come and work in this city can be able to find a place to stay. So instead of demarcating our farms and making them small, let us have initiatives where the housing can be provided, and let young people now start owning homes now. In fact, for me, I would encourage the young people. When I was in campus, I remember my first job, I worked at CKRC, you know, and would get 4,000 for reports and I think 5,000 going out of station. By the end of the month, you have a near 50 to 70,000 as a student. If you ask us what we did with our money, I can tell you for sure, I paid school fees because I needed to support my parents to meet that gap. But a good number of our friends bought plots along Thika Road. Now they are billionaires. In fact, one of them told me one of the plots that the universities are using, he has put their, you know, hostels for the university. And at that time, the plots were going for 10,000 shillings only. So you can imagine if we had this knowledge then, we would not be living here and paying rent, you know. So for me, I'll encourage the young people. Affordable housing is not for the oldies. It's for the young people. You're told this house will be up in the next 2-3 years. And you're told all you need to do is put a small deposit. Why can't you do that? Save through your nose until you own that unit. So that if anything goes wrong, at least you have a roof to go and sleep, you know. So most of us, our age, we worked for rent. We actually work to make other people rich. So the young people, this is their opportunity to grab. If they can do it, why not?
Now, as we come to the close of this interview, now looking ahead, what do you think Kenya needs to do to accelerate gains made in women's empowerment as she moves beyond the plus 30 milestone?
Kenya just needs to breathe, because Kenya is actually leading in sub-Saharan Africa. When we talk about gender parity accelerator, we are actually leading. When we talk about knowledge and young girls being in school, our transition margin is 99.1%. You know, when you look at the policies that are in place, Kenya is actually ahead. In fact, all the countries should come to benchmark with Kenya, you know. But having said that, we still have gaps that we need to push forward. For instance, when it comes to women leadership, trust you me, women will only lead if Kenya votes for them. So it's about us, it's not about government. It's about us Kenyans, what we want, you know. You cannot force government to put women in leadership positions, but Kenyans can put women in leadership positions. Can we start by accelerating that space, you know? Because government can push so far. You have seen right now we have a broad-based government, right? So when it comes to appointive positions, you don't have much control. That's what I'm saying, because it becomes politics. But when you elect your leaders, you know, first Kenyans themselves must accept that it's okay to be led by women. We have to embrace our mothers. If your mothers can lead in a home, you know, they organize things. You know, my dad used to say, this house, there's no, mom is not here, there's nobody. For as long as your mother is not here, he termed the place empty, you know, because our mothers organize and plan. So what is so wrong in balancing that, you know, and dynamics in terms of leadership spaces, board dynamics. You need the young people, you need persons living with disability, we need all the special groups, minority tribes, you need them because their issues are unique. And you need the women, of course. So for me, before we even point fingers to the leaderships that are there, the question I want to ask is, how many women leaders have we elected? So if the community itself is not ready, then we should stop blaming government. You know, let's show the goodwill from the community itself first. So having said that, I think we allowed the women who've also presented themselves to lead, you know. And I can tell you for a fact, because of the violence that goes around leadership, most good women will tell you, I do not want to participate in any leadership position, because the moment you front yourself, you actually become a punching bag of everybody else who needs a dumping site for their cracked up minds. So you find people will insult you, people will give you all manner of issues, just so that you step aside. You've all seen the kind of banter women leaders get, this character assassination, People try to want to put you in a character box that they expect. It's their expectation, it's not who you present yourself. So then women have shied away. But I would wish to call upon so many other women to show up, just show up. And those who have tried not to lose hope, they should try again, The first time it's an introductory phase, and then you have to be embraced, and then you have to be put in those positions. You also discover many women don't have the financial wherewithal or muscle to run elective positions. When I asked one leader, how much does it take to be an MP in this country? Take your guess, or even an MCA. You spend a lot of money, and trust you me, you'll never recoup that money in office. So that also tells us that our leadership and governance issues, we still have a gap. And we've made it very expensive for any good leader to come out and say, I want to take this leadership position. So we have a lot that needs to be done. And it's just about the society. The society first needs to embrace. If you today Kenyans wake up and say we'll elect women leaders, it's you who's going to cast the vote. But the moment a woman leader emerges, they are really, really bashed. And look at all women leaders. They've gone through hell to be seated where they are sitting. Not because they are what people are defining them to be, but it's because the easiest way to unseat a woman or to kill their ego from taking offices, what do? You character assassinate. Because the society has a way they have defined how a woman should sit and behave, and it's a near cultural script that women have been forced to adhere to. And then you come and realize it's more of suppression. There are very many women good leaders out there, but the thought of just taking a leadership seat and the journey they have to undertake, most of them shy away. So for me, that would be a rallying call to Kenyans, really. It's upon you to elect leaders. Yeah. In fact, I keep telling, if you ask many women, they really don't want to be nominated. They want to be elected. But the elective seats are so thin because it has to start with the political parties themselves. Political parties must be willing and ready to present good women to take leadership positions. With that, we'll never realize 2/3. And that's the reality. Because it's very expensive to nominate women in leadership positions. So will you nominate women to sit and serve? Will you elect them? Or will you translate the amount of money for nominations into economic empowerment and investment? There's a lot of all these things that are now trying to compete, for the same budget allocations. So if you were to nominate women right now, the 2/3 gender principle, right now, as we sit in Parliament is supposed to be dismissed on the fact that it's not constitutional compliance. Give or take, let's nominate the women leaders today. What have we done? Because you need to nominate about 61 to 71 of them. Look at the financial implication. So you have a bloated parliament, but that's what needs to be done. Section 27 of the Constitution, Article 27 of the Constitution calls that we actually need to have parliament to be compliant. So you then realize that a lot is at play. Some things you need to change the Constitution again for you to achieve, But give or take, the ball is in the court of Kenyans to elect women. And for me, that would be the rallying call for Kenyans to elect women in leadership positions. Pick your leaders and pick your leaders wisely.
Thank you so much for making time to speak to us here on Good Morning Kenya. That has been Harriet Chigai, who is the President's Advisor on Women's Rights. This is where we end this conversation. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike Megwe. Good Morning Kenya. Continue.